Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. It's a beautiful morning out there. Thank God, and happy to be with you. So Elon Musk is back in the news, as usual. Always something. If it's saying that he's taking his company private and he has equity lined up, which isn't true. If it's fighting about reopening his factory, very controversial, threatening to leave California, and so on and so forth. But I don't really want to talk about Elon Musk that much, and I don't want to get into his political things. But there's been a whole discussion about Elon Musk, who announced last week that he wants to sell all his worldly possessions. He put I think 5 homes up on the market in San Francisco and in Beverly Hills in LA, homes worth tens of millions of dollars, and he promised to sell all his worldly possessions. In fact, this Shabbos in the Wall Street Journal, there was a whole article on Section B about Elon Musk and why is he selling his material possessions. Is it because he's poor, cash poor, because if he sells his stock options then he doesn't have control over the company, or is it because he really wants to get rid of his worldly possessions? But he says, listen, he says worldly possessions hold us down. It ties us down. It doesn't allow us to do the things we want. The things we want to and need to do, and therefore he wants to sell it. Do I agree with him? Do I not agree with him? I wanted to give you a little bit of a Torah perspective about worldly possessions. So, first of all, this week's Torah portion, Parshas Bahar, begins, and we speak about the idea of Shemitah. Shemitah was the sabbatical year. Imagine, you owned something for 6 years, you worked, everyone dealt with agriculture, and on the 7th year, you had to rest your field, no work. Imagine now we're in quarantine for a month, 2 months, people are going crazy. How could it be? What's going on? We can't work, we can't do our jobs. Here they had a time where for months, for a year straight, they couldn't work. And the reason the rabbis give us was one of the main reasons is because God wanted to remind us that at the end of the day, Kili kol haaretz, the Torah tells us. In this week's portion, in today's parsha we read, God says, Kili kol haaretz, the land is all mine. So I want to remind you, I let you work there, I let you do what you want, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, you need to remember whose land it is. So if once a year you stop, you pause, you don't use it once in 7 years, for a full year, you remember that the land is mine. That's why when the Jews came into Israel, they settled the land, they split it amongst the tribes. If I sell you a piece of land, at the Jubilee year, it all went back to the original owners, because no one owns anything. God owns everything. And the things we have are only there for us to use because God allows us to. That's a powerful perspective that the Torah teaches us in this week's Torah portion. And by the way, this was a great challenge for many Jews, especially since everything they lived on was agriculture. And you had to have deep faith to believe in the promise that the Torah says that if you don't work on the 7th year, then God promises that the 6th year will give enough produce, plentiful, to last you for the 7th and for the 8th, till you're able to get back and be able to produce food to sell and food to eat. So it took deep faith. But I want to speak also about what ethics of our fathers tells us when it comes to worldly possessions. You know, Elon Musk says worldly possessions hold you down, and the truth is they do. Imagine if you own 5 homes, one in Florida, one in Boston, one in New York, and one in Jerusalem, and you're worried. You have to be worried about paying the bills of all the homes, who's taking care of them, of what's being done, etc., etc. And if there's a leak, if there's a problem, if there's a flood, who's paying taxes? The more worldly possessions we have, the more they tie us down. In fact, ethics of our fathers tells us that clearly. Marben nechasim, marbed daga. The more properties, the more worry you have. It's a basic, simple concept that things that tie you, possessions that tie you down. But the thing is like this, that Elon Musk might have a very noble cause. He says, my worldly possessions are tying me down. I don't want to use them. I don't want to have them. I want to be able to focus on greater and larger things. But the question is, of course, you're giving up your worldly possessions, a house that might be something that's tied to the land, but are you giving up your money? Are you giving up your billions of dollars to charity? No. You're using them. You're keeping them. You're trying to get wealthier. What are you going to do with them? What are you going to pursue with the extra time you have because you don't have the worry of worldly possessions? So if a person says, hey, I have worldly possessions, I don't want them anymore because I want to focus on spirituality, on things that are more mind matter. I want to study. I want to help people. That's great. But if I want to get rid of my worldly possessions, I can make more money than you're focused only on the worldly. And that's why the Pirkei Avot that I told you that says Marbet Nechasim, Marbet Daiga, the more property, the more worries, is a very basic term. But there's something much deeper that ethics of our fathers tells us, and this is what Elon Musk is missing. And this is what we have to remember as Jews. And this is really the message of this week's Torah portion. And it says like this in Pirkei Avot. Rabbi Yaakov says, we read it this Shabbos, Ha'olam hazeh, this world, doma lifrozdor, it's compared to an antechamber, bifnei ha'olam haba, before the world to come, which is the banquet hall. Haskin atzmacha beprozdor, prepare yourself in the antechamber, kedei shetikanes lepraklet, that you should be able to enter the banquet hall. Rabbi Yaakov says something so deep here. He says, it's not about selling one worldly possession to pursue another worldly possession. It's not about selling my home so I could buy a boat. It's not about selling my boat so I can acquire another company, so I can make a space shift, so I can be more famous and own more things and be higher on Forbes or have more powerful control over everyone. And in fact, and I don't want to go into this controversy, the proof is in the pudding. The fact that Elon Musk is so upset that they don't want to let him open his factories yet because they're worried about saving lives tells you so much about him. If worldly possessions are tying him down and it's insignificant to him, why would he want to risk lives to open his company, to make one more car to sell so his stock could go up? But what Pirkei Avot tells us in last week's portion is that this world is like an antechamber. It's like a hallway before the banquet hall. Imagine if you're going to a big party, to a big banquet hall, to a big celebration, and you come and you schlep by car for an hour to this wedding of the century. And then you come into the hall and there's a hallway. And in the hallway there's some nice decorations and nice signs and stuff going around. And you start patchking there. And you spend 2 hours there instead of going in to the actual hall, to the actual party that's truly where you want to be. That's what Rabbi Yaakov is telling us. And that's really what Elon Musk and all of us in life have to understand. This world is only a hallway. Everything you own here is great, but it doesn't go with you. It's not what's valuable. It's not what stays with you. They say this story about the Reichmans, and I don't know if it's true, but it's a powerful story about how the wealthy Reichman family, a very famous observant family in Toronto, Canada, that when the patriarch of the family passed away, he asked his sons, in his will he wrote that he wants to be buried with his socks, whatever it takes. His kids were wondering, what did the father want? But his father said that. So listen, so they tried, they went to the Chevra Kadisha, to the burial home. They said, listen, tradition in Jewish tradition is that we bury in special shrouds and we don't wear socks. He said, please, my father asked. They said, listen, this is the Jewish law. We have to follow Jewish law, back and forth. They couldn't do it. He was buried without his socks. A month later, there was a letter from their dad that their dad asked them to open. They open the letter and they see the letter. The father writes, I wanted to teach you guys a lesson that as wealthy as you can be and as powerful as a person can be, he won't decide what he takes to the world to come. All I wanted, I said, was to write, to take a pair of socks, and I couldn't even say that. How much wealth? How many buildings did I own? How much property did I have? But what did I take? They say the story back in Europe of one of the greatest sages who used to go collecting money for a yeshiva. He was one of the greatest rabbis in pre-war Europe. And he came to this guy who would always give him a hefty sum of money for the yeshiva, but always the guy wanted to show him a new piece of furniture he got. He says, look at this exquisite china closet I got, and it was made with special Italian wood and cherry wood, and the rabbi didn't get any pleasure. He couldn't understand it. And then he would show him a beautiful couch he got, and then he would show him a beautiful watch that he had. And the rabbi couldn't get excited. And the wealthy man who gave him a lot of money got frustrated. He says, Rabbi, he says, I don't understand. He says, don't you get excited in your home? Don't you have these beautiful furnitures? So the rabbi asked the guy a question. He says, let me ask you a question. Do you ever go on vacation? He says, sure, I travel. I go to the waters, to resorts. I travel different places in Europe. So the rabbi says, do you take your piece of furniture with you? What do you take with you? He says, my furniture, it's huge, it's big, I can't schlep it. I take a little suitcase with my basic belongings, with my clothing, and a few other items that I'll need. The rabbi says, but you have such exquisite furniture, such beautiful things, why don't you take it with you? He says, Rabbi, are you kidding me? I can't schlep this with me. When I travel, I'm just traveling. This is my home. This is where I live. This is my identity. This is who I am. So over here, I have all these beautiful things. But back, when I travel, I just take a few, my pants, my shirt, my bathing suit, a couple of items I need, and that's where I go. And the rabbi smiled at him and says, you don't understand. Same thing with me. When I'm in this world, I'm just traveling. I'm on a trip. I take my little suitcase and my basic needs. My furniture! Oh, do I have exquisite furniture, beautiful mahogany stuff? Do I have a watch like you've never seen? Do I have gorgeous chandeliers? But they're all in my real home, the world to come. That's what Rabbi Yaakov is saying. This world is antechamber. Everything here is temporary. There's nothing we take. Everything is just a preparation for the true banquet hall. How could you get stuck and tied down by the possessions of the whole way before you get into the real party? I think it was Sir Montefiore when they once asked him how much money he's worth, and he said this amount, a few million pounds, whatever it was, and they started laughing. They said, what are you talking about? You're worth so much more money. Look at this property, that property, this and that. And Sir Montefiore laughed at them, and he looked at me and he says, listen, tomorrow there could be a fire. It could burn down the property. I'm valueless. I don't own it anymore. Pandemic could come. People don't pay rent. Values crash. What was worth yesterday 100 million is today worth 5 million. The only thing I have is what I gave away to someone else. The charity I gave. Because that no one could take away from me. So I want to advise Elon Musk. Listen, I'm not complaining. He makes great cars. I know many of the people in our shul drive their cars. They love it. It's good for the environment. Less gas, less fossil fuels, more electric. It's good for Israel, less dependency on Middle Eastern countries that don't love us that much. But at the end of the day, it's easy to sell your homes and say I'm getting rid of my worldly possessions because they tie me down. In order to really stop focusing on worldly possessions and focus on what matters most, you need a paradigm shift. You need to view the world with a different prism. You need to be able to see the world in a way of what's a fleeting moment of value, but what's real value. The ideas we bring to the world, the benefit we bring to others, the Torah and mitzvahs we do, the things that we acquire that will never leave us and that will be with us as we go into the banquet hall. Have a good day, my friends. See you again tomorrow.